In the first lesson that introduced us to the years following the First World War, we learned about the terms of the Treaty of Versailles. Now, the Treaty of Versailles held Germany responsible for the First World War, which is why Germany was having to pay very high war reparations. And at the same time, it also lost many of its very rich and resourceful regions to France, Poland, Denmark, Lithuania. Now, at this point of time, the loss of the resourceful regions put a severe strain on Germany's economy. Why was it so? Because Germany did not have any way to earn revenue in order to pay back the war indemnity. The war indemnity was as high as 6 billion pounds, and on top of it, Germany did not even have sufficient resources to have its factories and industries running. So altogether, Germany's resources were severely depleted following the First World War and the Treaty of Versailles. But at this point of time, the German policymakers were quite clueless. They did not know what to do with the country's economy. German economy was severely faltering in all possible way. The masses were unemployed and hungry, and it was difficult for the country to earn any revenue. And the policymakers at this point of time now thought of printing huge numbers of paper currency. Now, the German mark, which was the German currency at that point of time, was being recklessly printed. Because the policymakers thought that if they recklessly print paper currency, then the German masses will have access to more money. But the access to more money did not come as a solution to the economic crisis that Germany was enmeshed in during this time. This is because when people have access to more money, their demands will also increase. Suppose I have 10 rupees today, and with 10 rupees I will be able to buy only a certain amount of things. But if I suddenly have access to 1 lakh rupees today, I will be able to buy more and more things. That is to say, my demands will also increase. And likewise happened with the German masses when more and more paper currency was being printed. And when people's demands also increased, the markets started collapsing. Because the German economy was already faltering, as we know. Germany did not have sufficient resources to produce more and more goods to take care of the increasing demands of the citizens. So as a result of this, it became increasingly difficult for Germany to meet the ever-increasing demands of people. So people were then queuing outside the shops simply because they had access to huge numbers of paper currency. But these shops were not able to meet the increasing demands of these people. Firstly, the German economy was faltering, and secondly, Germany did not have enough resources to produce goods for the masses. Now, when the economy of any country, of any region fails to meet the demands of the people, the prices of different commodities start increasing. Allow me to give you an example in this regard so that this becomes clear to you. Suppose 1 piece of chocolate is available for rupees 10, and all the people have access to rupees 10. On the first day, I produce 100 chocolates, and 100 people come to buy those chocolates. But if people have access to more and more money, then assuming next day 200 people come to buy chocolates from me. But I will have only 100 chocolates with me to sell, and I will not be able to meet the demand of 200 people. So what will happen as a result of this? As a result of this, the price of that chocolate will increase, and this is known as inflation. So, inflation actually records the increase of the prices of various commodities over a certain period of time. Now, when the German economy failed to meet the ever-increasing demands of the people, inflation occurred in Germany. That is to say, the prices of different things started increasing. Now, when inflation occurs in any country, the purchasing power of that country's currency falls. That is to say, the amount of things that could be earlier on brought with the same currency will now be much lesser. This means that lesser number of things could now be bought with that same amount. So this also results in the devaluation of the currency of that region or that country. And likewise happened to the German mark as well. The German mark's value started increasingly falling in the international market. Now, if you look at this, you will be able to understand how the value of the German mark was falling in just 1 year, that is in the span of 12 months in 1923. Now, in the month of April, $1 was equal to 24,000 marks. But when it was the month of July, $1 became equal to 353,000 marks. So can you understand how this difference occurred from 24,000 marks to 353,000 marks over the span of just a few months? Then just a month ahead, in August, $1 became equal to 4,621,000 marks. So the price of mark was rapidly falling. And by the end of the year, that is in December, $1 became equal to 98,860,000 German mark. So can you understand how rapidly the value of the German mark fell? It was just in a span of few months from April to December that the value of the German mark fell to such a huge extent. And this was the inflation that happened in Germany following the First World War. And the main reasons that the people of Germany thought were the terms of the Treaty of Versailles, which were very harsh and unfair on Germany. Now, at this point of time, Germany was on the brink of an economic collapse. You'll be able to understand if I give you this example. In 1918, bread costed 0.5 marks in Germany, but by the end of 1923, that same bread now costed 201 billion. So this difference is absolutely unimaginable. A piece of bread costing 201 billion. But this is what had happened to the German currency between 1918 and 1923. Owing to the rapid devaluation of the German mark, prices of goods now skyrocketed. We already mentioned that inflation records the increase of the prices of various commodities over a period of time. We also learned how the value of the German mark fell drastically with respect to the US dollar. And the prices of several commodities like bread and other essential things that people required for their sustenance kept on increasing very rapidly. At one point of time, by the year 1923, people had to carry almost truckloads of money in order to get hold of just one loaf of bread. So this was the condition of the German mark in 1923. And this resulted in a condition that was known as the hyperinflation crisis of 1923. Now, hyperinflation is an extreme form of inflation in which the prices of several things increase by more than 50% in just 1 month. Now, during the hyperinflation crisis of 1923, the German mark was almost reduced to nothing. Here you can see two children playing with a lot of paper currency. Well, this was what the German mark had come down to at this point of time. The masses were severely suffering because of this reason. They were not able to procure bread and other necessary items that they required to feed themselves, to sustain themselves. When Germany was going through the worst financial crisis ever, it actually evoked the sympathy of the world. Now the world was seeing what was happening to the German masses. The Treaty of Versailles had almost reduced Germany to nothing. Germany did not have resources, did not have any way to earn any revenue, and the German economy had completely collapsed. Now during this point of time, the US sought to intervene in order to alleviate this miserable condition of the German economy. And help came from the US in the form of the Dawes Plan. Now the Dawes Plan was introduced in the year 1924, and it actually sought to reduce Germany's annual reparation payments. So when Germany's annual reparation payments were reduced, Germany was slowly now seeing a phase of economic stability between 1924 and 1928. So it was this Dawes Plan that had actually helped the German economy to recover to a certain extent between these 4 years. But this was a time of economic crisis in not just Germany but the entire world. The Wall Street crash happened in 1929. Now the Wall Street crash of 1929 was a major stock market crash in America, and it severely impacted global economy, because America played a very crucial role in the global economy. And this huge stock market crash in America that came to be known as the Wall Street crash severely impacted the global economy. Economies of different nations were put under severe strain during the Wall Street crash. Now during the Wall Street crash, the masses were actually fearing the loss of their money, which is why they were frantically selling off their shares. You'll be surprised to know that 13 million shares were sold on just one single day. That was on October 24, 1929. And this day came to be known as the Black Tuesday. Now the Wall Street crash of 1929 actually signaled the Great Depression that ensued, because 13 million shares were sold on Black Tuesday and the American stock market completely collapsed. Before proceeding with this lesson, let me ask you a question. When did the Wall Street crash happen? Did it happen in 1934, 1929, 1926 or in 1900? Well, the correct answer is 1929. The Wall Street crash happened in 1929, and after this ensued the Great Depression. Now the Great Depression was a period of severe economic crisis in not just America but throughout the world. And in just 3 years, that is between 1929 and 1932, the national income of the US fell by half. All sections of the US society were severely affected by the Great Depression. The prices of several things kept on increasing. The masses found it very difficult to feed themselves. There was hunger, acute shortages of food and several other commodities. And this was what was happening in not just America but in several parts of the world during the Great Depression. During the Great Depression, Germany was also affected. It seemed that problems for Germany were never coming to an end. This is because Germany was given help in the form of the Dawes Plan, which was introduced by the United States of America. But at this point of time, that is between 1929 and 1932, the US economy itself was almost on the verge of completely collapsing. It was severely affected by the Wall Street crash. Now all kinds of help that were extended to Germany by the US, be that in the form of the Dawes Plan or several other loans, were now halted. And this in turn halted Germany's industrial recovery as well, because Germany was witnessing some sort of an economic stability between 1924 and 1928 on account of the loans that were extended by the US. But US intervention and US help completely stopped after the Wall Street crash, which is why Germany's industrial recovery was also halted and stalled during this period. By 1932, industrial production in Germany was greatly reduced and the number of unemployed reached an unprecedented 6 million. So can you imagine how so many people had lost their employment at this point of time in Germany? Because finally there was absolutely nothing for Germany to bank upon. The US intervention also halted because of the collapse of the US economy itself. So Germany was once again plunged into absolute economic crisis, and this time Germany was not just knee deep in crisis, instead it was neck deep in crisis. The masses were not able to feed themselves. Here you can see how so many children have queued only to get free soup. This is what Germany was reduced to in the interwar period. Now, during this time, when so many people were unemployed, the streets of Germany were filled with German men who struggled to feed themselves. And on their necks hung placards that read, "Willing to do any work." Any work that would fetch them some money to buy some food for themselves and their family was okay with them. So the condition in Germany was very dire during the Great Depression. All sections of the German population were affected during the years of the Great Depression. Now some workers, some organized business managed to keep themselves afloat, but it did not happen for long. The economic crisis had entered the veins of the nation. All the people were suffering. Now certain rich and middle class sections of the society were now crippled by the fear of proletarization. But what was this fear of proletarization? The rich people as well as the middle class people in Germany saw their resources, their wealth draining very swiftly, because most of these people lost their employment and they were banking on their savings, and their savings were also being depleted, which is why they were now fearing that they would be reduced to the status of proletariats or the working class members. Or even worse, these people were thinking that they would be absolutely penniless and they would have to beg on the streets. So the fear of proletarization gripped the German masses. During this time, very unfortunate scenes of unemployed men queued at the corners of the streets with the hope of getting some work could be seen. Men were actually queuing at the corners of the streets. They were waiting in search of any job, any work, anything that would bring them some money. This was what was happening with the masses in Germany during the Great Depression. A point that we have been harping upon all along is that all the sections of the German society were affected by the effects of the Great Depression. From big businessmen to even the poorest of peasants, everyone in Germany was hit hard by the economic crisis. Now some organized workers were able to save up something for themselves, but those savings also did not last for long. Most people had lost their employment and they did not even have anything to earn a living. Here you can see how there used to be many posters hung on the walls of the streets or the shops. Farm hands wanted, good wages and good place. This here reads Acme Employment Company. So people were actually wanting employment in this kind of a way. All the sections of the society were suffering during this economic crisis in Germany. Now, in the absence of proper resources, agricultural production was also affected, which is why agricultural prices fell. Women were struggling to fill the tummies of their children, as you can see here. So many children were actually spending their days and nights in hunger. And it was all because of that one First World War and everything that followed it. And this is the reason why no war can ever be desirable. Wars reduce human lives to nothing. Wars take away so many human lives, and the repercussions of the wars are more often than not very prolonged and very severe. And Germany was going through the worst ever economic crisis at this point of time. Now all the masses started holding the Weimar Republic responsible for what was happening to them. They thought that it was the Weimar Republic's silent acceptance of the Treaty of Versailles that had actually brought Germany down to its knees. Because of this tension, the Weimar Republic failed to restore stability, be that to the German economy or German polity. In our last lesson, we learnt about the political crisis that was happening in Germany following the First World War. The German population was divided among the communists, the socialists, the conservatives, who were all fighting amongst themselves. And in this lesson, we have been talking at great length about the economic crisis that Germany was enmeshed in. And sadly enough, because of political inexperience and inability, the Weimar Republic was not able to restore any kind of stability or peace in Germany. Though it was federal democratic in nature and it was a very liberal government, it actually failed to be successful in restoring peace and stability in Germany in the interwar period. The Weimar Republic was flawed in ways more than one. This is because it introduced proportional representation. Now, in proportional representation, each party had to get 5% of the national votes, or at least 3 of the directly elected seats, in order to qualify for the seats in this proportional representation system. Because of this proportional representation, no German party was able to gain absolute majority in the German Reichstag or Weimar Republic. And as a result of this, many coalitions came into being. And needless to mention, these coalitions were quite ineffective because these coalitions actually failed to bring any kind of stability to the nation. You'll be surprised to know that more than 20 coalitions came to power in the short life of the Weimar Republic from 1918 to 1923. And these coalitions lasted on an average of 239 days. So you can understand how these coalitions were actually ineffective and short-lived. And along with that, the constitution of the Weimar Republic also had Article 48, and this Article 48 gave the President the power to declare emergency, suspend civil liberties and rule by decree. So the President used this power quite a few times during the short life of the Weimar Republic, and at the same time the President was in no way effective in bringing peace and stability to the German masses. Because simply by suspending civil liberty and ruling by decree, the President could not bring any solution to the German state. Now, owing to the political inexperience and absolute inefficiency of the Weimar Republic, the Germans could no longer put their faith in the democratic parliamentary system that was instituted by the Weimar Republic. Though the Weimar Republic initially gave the masses a streak of hope by instituting a democratic parliamentary system in which people's opinions would be taken into account and consideration, it was not at all able to hold the Germans together. because it was politically inexperienced, and at the same time the policymakers also instituted a whole lot of inefficient policies. All these together led to the failure of the Weimar Republic. Now, the failure of the Weimar Republic also set the stage for the great German dictator to come to power. Well, it is upon us to later on understand whether this dictator was great or not. But in our subsequent lesson, we will be introduced to how this dictator initially rose to power in German politics. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon. You can also register for free at DeltaStep.com or download the DeltaStep app to learn one-to-one with our amazing teachers, or to get access to all our 5,000 plus amazing videos as per your school syllabus. Master each topic with our adaptive practice technology. Get million plus questions with step-by-step solutions and unlimited mock tests. Get all your doubts resolved instantly. Learn via games and win amazing prizes like PlayStations and iPads. So at DeltaStep, learning is not just fun and easy, it's rewarding too. So register for free now.